On this episode of the John1911 Podcast, jacked up my zeros, looking back at 2022, the Integra Returns, and the biggest weather event ever until the next one. Okay, good evening, everybody. This is episode 283 of the John1911 Podcast. Today is Friday, December 23rd, about 10:44 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We are on the East Coast of the United States. And this is going to be, since it is so close to Christmas and so close to New Year's, and we've had inclement weather coming through, this is going to be a little bit different of an episode. And frankly, I don't feel like talking about politics or talking about, stuff going on in the world or talking about Ukraine or the police blotter. It's not, I'm taking a break from all that, and I just, going to, since this is the mind I have right now, I'm going to sit and think and kind of reflect on the year and where we've been and where we're going and kind of what's going on. So first thing is, I want to say thank you to everybody that has been a part of the John1911 community. Even if you don't communicate with us directly, we certainly see you. We have the metrics to be able to, not that we're tracking you like the CIA or the FBI or Twitter, but we can see the traffic, we can see you're there. And if you do reach out to us or leave a comment or an email or a message, we read it. I personally make sure I read all the emails, and I try to read all the comments, and we're actually going to be bringing in some help with the comments on the Facebook page, on the Facebook, Instagram. We're gonna bring in some more people to help with that, but nothing's going to really change. I'm still going to be there, but it's because of the success of John1911, and really it's a success that we can attribute to you guys. It's been a eventful year. It's been a long year. There have been ups and there have been downs. If I am completely honest, and this isn't the kind of stuff that I would typically talk about publicly, if I were to rate this year for John1911, for us, and directly it would be me, I would say this year, 2022, was a much rougher year for us than 2020 and 2021, when most people were going through the depths of COVID. So, I guess in a way you can kind of say, everybody gets a turn, right? Eventually everybody, has to take a bite of the crap sandwich or, get their turn in the ring. So 2022 was definitely our turn in the ring, but we had some misses, but we had a lot of successes. And there's some things that even happened that a lot of you aren't really aware of. Some of you are, but, first thing is I wanted to say thank you to everybody that has made the John1911 community what it is. I'm excited about the future. We opened up the store in 2022, and that was a lot of fun. That was a little scary. We've been wanting to get back into merchandising, just on principle. We have to. But, we get busy. It's been a rough year. It was a busy summer. And all of a sudden, now we're bumping up into Thanksgiving. And then you get into Black Friday, because then everybody wants to order everything for Christmas, right? And it's like, this is the worst time of year to try to open up a store, because, there could be 100 things that go wrong that could be terrible. Well, fortunately, it was a controlled open. What do they call it in the nightclub business or the restaurant business? A soft launch. It was a soft launch. If you were a regular participant, you realized that we had a store open and we had a product that was easy to sell, and it sold out very quickly. And we tracked every single shipment, and everybody got everything, and nothing got lost. So that's a success. And that was my biggest fear with the store. Setting it up during the holidays, especially if somebody orders something and it's a gift, and can we even replace it? Just all that nightmare. So that opens up some real interesting possibilities for 2023. We also, I guess I can say this. This is more of a miss, but in a way, I guess it depends on your depends on your perspective. So let me tell you a story. We almost expanded the John 1911 range in 2022. And I'll say that, if you think of the John 1911 range as a box, like any piece of property, where you live, it's kind of got four sides unless you live on it, but you can kind of get an idea north, south, east, and west of wherever you are. Well, John 1911 range is the same way. And so my concern is with the John 1911 range is making sure that we either can keep the range running for the things that we want to do, or we are in a position that if I decide we need to sell the range, then I can do it very quickly. And so there's two schools of thought, and just bear with me. There are two tracks on how I handle this, and bear with me while I tell you this story. So, one of the problems that has happened with COVID is a lot of people are moving out to the country, right? And, rightfully so. I mean, I encourage that. I'm not a big fan of the cities. So we've had more people, it doesn't matter where you are in the country, the more people coming out. So we've had, even around the John 1911 range, some of the larger farms, not directly attached to the range, but we've seen some farms broken up, into like 40 acre tracts and 80 acre tracts. So, keep that in mind. It's still 40 or 80 acres. But one thing that I wanted to make sure is I don't want somebody coming in next to us on a neighboring farm and, I don't know, putting 5 houses on it or putting 40 houses on it. Not that the John 1911 range is located in an area where that can happen now, but it's certainly, at some point in the future. And so one of the things that I do, and this is the joke that we say internally, I'm telling you all of my dirty, darkest secrets here on Christmas Eve almost, is, I operate kind of like the Roman Empire. And what I mean by that is, and I've said this to people, if I got eyes on you, I got hungry eyes. And so there's a piece of property. If I were to say let me think about this. So there's a piece of property south of us, a large farm that is owned by a person who, honestly, we've even been warned by some of the locals. He's a very unfriendly old man, and he's been there a long time. And I've scoped out his property. I've had the attorneys look at it, and I've made plans that if it ever comes up available, we're going to scoop it up. And so there's a property. If I were to, that would be east. A property east that is probably my next Roman Empire expansion. And so, if I said I'm the Roman Empire, what's happened is I've had staff members say, so Marky's looking out from the John 1911 range, and this way is Sicily, this way is Gaul, this way is Germania, and so I'm expanding or dying. And so there was a property that I would say, I guess it would be, let me think about this. I guess it would be Gaul, and a woman, an older woman, it's a large piece of property, and she's owned it for a long, long time, and since before I was born. So, and she's a widow, and her husband passed away some years ago, and she has some tenant farmers that work this property, and they know that we exist, and we know they exist, and everything's fine. And as a matter of fact, this woman, she really likes us. Like, I remember the first time I had a SWAT team at the range with a 50 BMG rifle. Didn't have a suppressor on it, and they're shooting it, and it's the middle of the day, work day, and I called her up, and I don't want to say her name, but I'm like, hey, it's Marky, we got a team over here. I'm just, we had to talk about some other business anyway. And I'm like, what do you hear exactly? Can you, is this 50, can you hear this where you're at? She's like, no, I can't hear anything. And that was, so anyway, nice lady, had a lot of communication with her. She's older, eventually her property's going to come into play. And one of my concerns was, what if somebody were to buy her property and, I don't know, do something with it besides a farm? So I broached the idea this year of possibly, purchasing it from her. And it was just a casual conversation, literally almost like a fence line conversation. Just, I don't know, want to talk about the future. What are you thinking? How much land do you have exactly? And turns out she had more land than what we thought. And, she gave us what was tillable. And, she even talked about the barns and her equipment, and she gave us a price, and it was a fair price. I was like, that's really interesting price. I mean, it wasn't a steal. It's market price with tillable land. So that's a lot more expensive. And, we started talking, and it was, I would say pre-negotiations. And what happened was she has extended family that have been hunting on this property. My understanding is could be 40 years. And they come, every deer season and set up their little trailers, their little campers, and they go out and do whatever. And, they're one of the groups that are around our range that, we need to make sure they don't cross a fence line. The previous owner of our property had warned us, hey, I've caught some of them on which is now be the John 1911 property, on, our property. So, just kind of keep an eye out. And again, hunters are a lot like Romans. They'll push it if they can. They'll push it absolutely if they can. So what happened was, since we broached the conversation, she started talking to her family, to her daughter and extended family about, well, maybe I should sell the farm. Maybe I should, I'm getting older, think about estate planning. I mean, it wasn't part of the conversation, but it's obvious where this is going to go. And what happened was the extended family, the hunters, they really like to hunt the property. And again, I can understand that because, they get to come and hunt, but they don't have to take care of it. They got together and even got her to do they did some kind of land contract or something. And, they purchased the property. And so even though we didn't get to buy the property, I mean, it would have cost me a lot of money, like multiple Porsches. I could have bought a fleet of tractors money. But what it did, the good news is it forced the issue. There's now new owners over there. It's settled. It's a settled contract basically, and I don't have to worry about a subdivision coming in over there anytime soon. And if they get in trouble or there's some issue, I'll be the first person they call to buy it. I mean, everyone kind of knows that I'm the first person to buy it. So while it was a miss for 2022, it really was a win, because it really helped make sure that the John 1911 range as it exists is going to stay where it's at. And I guess I'll say this. After building this range, because it was a conversation we've had around here, I'm really kind of opening up the books and telling you a lot of things, end of year things. And so, we war game a lot of stuff around here. And one of the things was, well, we've done a lot with the range. We've learned a lot. We've been through a lot. We have a lot more experience. I've worked at places with ranges. I've shot at places with ranges. Now I've built ranges. And, if I have given a blank slate and I wanted to do it again, what would I do differently? And there are things that I would do differently. Maybe like a different type of property, maybe a different configuration. Like now, I would be even open to actually just buying a straight up farm and then just operating the farm and then using the farming to maintain the rifle ranges, which isn't something that I initially wanted to do. I mean, I've personally, if you've been around for a while, you can see I've come quite a long way from when we bought the property to now. I'm driving tractors and cutting hydraulic lines and working on things and doing all kinds of stuff. I mean, I'm getting to the point personally, I'm going to end up learning how to weld here before too long. So, that's a big change. So the things that we were afraid to do in I guess it was 2017, we bought that property. Maybe it's 2018, 2017, are no longer so fearful. And we have a lot of experience, and it's like, well, we could sell this property, we could make money on the property, and, we could even do things to enhance the value of the property. So like one of our escape plans is, let's say the farm next door that I wanted to buy from the old lady, she ends up selling it to some kind of developer, and he wants to put 500 homes next door. The John 1911 range is there. We're there first, but the reality is the writing's on the wall. We're over there shooting like crazy, doing all kinds of stuff. We can't stay there forever. So the escape plan is we find a builder, we put a nice modern, market appropriate but nice house up on the front of the property, and then we sell the property for more than what we have in it, and it becomes a, quote, sportsman's paradise, and we take that big old, and we're out for, we're way ahead. We're way in the black. So, I do things in certain ways to make sure that, we can get out. But trying to figure out the future and figure out where we're going to end up in 2022, there's been some ups and downs, but we've landed on our feet. And so it was, even though it was, I really wanted that woman's farm, the fact that we forced the issue, and it's now owned by hunters that are treating it like a farm, I think it's pretty stable. So that's why we're investing things like trying to build a barn and doing all that kind of stuff. Why I bought a big ass tractor and doing more, to invest in the property. So, that's been an interesting thing of the year. We have had some staffing issues. Those of you that have been asking, there's not a whole lot we can do about that. Some people are out dealing with some personal issues, and so we're hoping they're doing well and doing the best they can, and praying for them. And maybe 2023 things will turn around. We certainly would hope they do, but we have to can't sit around and wait and stop living. So there's been a lot going on with us in 2022. Now let me give you an update on Danny. Danny has actually been out on some personal medical leave. He's fine. He had to go in. I'm not gonna say anything that's really out of turn, but Danny had to go in to have a procedure done, and he, of course, in the middle of all this, snowstorm, and so he had to spend a few days in the hospital, and he's home, and he's trying to feel better. He's doing great. I've been talking to him, and he's been chomping at the bit to get onto the podcast and talk about all the politics and everything that's going on. So Danny's been, Danny's doing great, and I don't know if Danny will be on before New Year's. I honestly don't even know if I'm going to do a podcast between now and New Year's. This might be the last podcast of 2022, but that's kind of an update where, what's going on with Danny. Now let's talk a little bit about, again, just, kind of living our lives here. So like right now, it's in Cincinnati, the temperature outside is -2. And earlier today, this morning, where the John 1911 Armory is at, it was -8 is what I saw outside. And, I'm in my 50s, but when I grew up, we didn't have a lot of I would call it like the big media, national media, international media. And every story has to be the big, the news has turned into the NFL or turned into college football. And what I mean by that is if you watch, what I don't like about ESPN and a lot of these professional sports is I don't like how their media works, because I personally find it exhausting. Like, I'm not a big football person, but if I were to start watching a football game, like just random, like, hey, what's this? I'm an alien dropped out of the sky and I land in America, and they go, you need to watch this national pastime. And I flip on the television, and whatever game is on is the most important game in the history of the world. This is the most important game of the year, the most important game of the franchise, or all this stuff is at stake, and blah, 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 blah. And the reality is it's not. And what's happened is, the media, modern media, has gotten real hypey. And so when I was young and we would have a snowstorm come down from Canada, it would be an Arctic blast, or I remember we would Arctic blast, and there'd be the Arctic Express, and like the Alaska Breath. I don't know, like they would give me the cutesy things. It's cold air. They've been doing that for a while, but now you're to the point with the news. We've all had to go through, quote, the Bomb-Cyclone. The Bomb-Cyclone. And it's, everybody's freaking out and all this stuff. And it's like, we've had blizzards before. We don't really get blizzards in Cincinnati. And by the way, according to the meteorologist, Cincinnati officially went through a blizzard. I guess I didn't know this, but I guess a blizzard, technically you have to have winds above, is it 35 miles an hour, visibility less than a quarter mile, and I can't remember what else it was. And if you do that for 2 or 3 hours, you officially become a blizzard. And so we barely crossed over into blizzard territory. And the last time that Cincinnati, according to the news, went through blizzard territory was 2008, according to, maybe it's 2007, 2008. Let's just say it's 2008. Well, here's the thing. Whatever happened today was just as bad as what happened in 2008. And I don't recall a bunch of people running around like shell-shocked going PTSD. Oh my God, it was so terrible. 2008, we almost all died. I mean, the news, whether it's the sports or the weathermen, they almost like they're jealous because they don't have a 9/11. They don't have a Pearl Harbor. They don't have a impeaching the president. They don't have a, constitutional crisis. And so they need their moment in the sun, or in this case, the storm too. And so it all just gets kind of, just kind of gets to be kind of whatever. So we got some snow, we got some ice. It's blowing pretty hard here in Ohio, I'm telling you. And I'm, hearing some reports like I guess there's a report tonight. Maybe it's in Pennsylvania, a big 40 car pileup, on one of these roads, which again, I hate to say this, but that kind of happens somewhere every year. Don't outdrive your headlights and, drive appropriate for conditions. But it's not the end of the world. And with that being said, like, we're going to be at the range tomorrow. It'll be 0, or I don't know, it might be below 0, but it's not going to be 30. It's not going to be 28. And we're going to be doing some shooting. The biggest thing we're going to be doing is we're going to be checking to see if we can get that tractor started. So since we don't have a barn built yet, the tractor's sitting out in the snow and the ice, and we've put all the fuel additives and stuff that we can. Looking back, maybe could have put more, because I think I was kind of measuring it like, the instructions in the bottle says do this. But, I'm learning now from Danny and a lot of people, they're just like, just put a bunch of that crap in there. Just hammer it. But the good news is too, even if we're just at the minimums with the anti-gel stuff, apparently since we gas this tractor up all the time, we literally gassed it up 4 days ago, that, I don't know, maybe it'll start. We'll see. It'll be interesting. So, but 2022, all the issues that we've had with maintaining the range and the previous bush hog and the equipment, if the tractor doesn't start on Christmas Eve after the blizzard, that's not a crisis. It's not a bomb cyclone. And the reality is, on Tuesday or Wednesday, it'll be 25 degrees or it'll be 40 degrees and everything will be fine, and the tractor will start and life will go on. And that's kind of the message, I guess, I want to give to everybody. Not that you need it from me, but life goes on. Everything's fine. It's not, nothing's the end of the world. Remember the speech that the Queen gave, Queen Elizabeth? She's like, never give up, never whatever. And the reality is, that old lady, she knew quite a bit of things, and it's worth remembering that, because life goes on. It's not that bad. things will settle down. First reports are almost always wrong. The Bomb-Cyclone just turned into a blizzard, the first blizzard we've had in 15 years. So, okay, great. We technically had a blizzard. So where were you in the blizzard of 2022? So it's been a good year. Interesting year. Been a tough year. 2023 is going to be very, very interesting. I'm not even going to say that we're done trying to buy property. You never know, because again, you can't stop the Romans. They always try. But we're gonna keep an eye out on things. And there's another one of the neighboring farms on the other side. Germania is looking really interesting. So, and Germania is all woods and has lots of big deer in it, to the point where we've even had some of the cop hunters that are on our range hunting during deer season are like, I saw a huge deer run over there and it crossed the property line. I'm like, don't cross, they know they would never cross the property line, but you never know. I mean, you never know what could happen in 2023. You didn't think we were going to get out of this podcast without doing at least a little bit of gun stuff though, right? We're going to do a couple things. So I had posted a video a couple of days ago. Maybe it was yesterday. It's been a long couple of days. My truck gun, which is the SIG 551A1, the SIG 550 series tack rifle. When I say tack, you know what? I need to specify this, because I think maybe my terminology doesn't necessarily translate to everybody that's on our social media. When I say tack rifle, this is from where I used to work. When I say tack rifle, I'm talking about ARs, AKs, which you would, I don't know, modern sporting weapons or whatever. I'm not talking about I could even kind of even do modern or do battle rifles, I guess, but tack rifle is like an AR, AK, mid whatever kind of thing. So logistically, you know what? More logically than logistically. Similar but different. An issue came up, and this is my fault, when I was shooting the 551. In my defense, well, excuse alert, I haven't shot that gun that much this year. It's been busy, been a lot going on. All the things I talked about. You see our social media. There's been a lot. And it's like, the winter's here, the range is icing up. It sounds like a perfect time to shoot rifles. So I'm like, I need, pull this gun out. It's always been in the truck, the SIG 55X gun, 551. Check to zero, shoot it, and do whatever. And I'm hitting things, but it's not hitting exactly where I'm thinking it's going to hit. And I'm realizing, okay, this gun doesn't have a 100-yard zero. I put a shorter zero on it, because statistically speaking, a civilian in the real world truck gun, your engagement distances, it can go either way. You can make an argument that you're going to have a legally hard time justifying taking a shot at 50 yards, beyond 50 yards, or, doing whatever. And so, when I'm working short range in the pit, I was inclined this time, for the first time ever, to zero this rifle at 50 or 25 yards. And the reason I'm saying 50 or 25 yards, because I literally don't remember what I zeroed it at. I don't remember what the goddamn zero is. Sorry. And, that's my fault. Maybe I should have written it down on the rifle. Maybe I could have looked on the web. I'm sure it's on the website, but I'm out there and I'm like, is this zero screwed up, or does this have a different zero on it? And the fact that I even have to ask that question is the answer, because I'm so used to 100-yard zeros with tack rifles that I know there's a little trick because we get guys who email us or message us, and I'm gonna help you out here. Like, you're like, oh, I got my AR, I'm doing whatever. I had a guy, he's probably listening to this podcast, and he was like, hey, I'm getting into shooting my AR. I'm able to shoot out to 200 and some yards and do whatever. And I'm kind of, getting into I don't know if he's talking about precision or he's talking about shooting a rifle, but 200 yards, hey, he's trying to figure it out. It's the maximum he can shoot. Well, with a 100-yard zero and a 5.56, I'm used to being able to, for the know what the bullet drop is going to be for 500 yards easily. And so I'm so used to that now having a rifle that's zeroed at 50 or 25 yards, I have to think about it. And it's like, well, what am I doing this for? I decided tack rifles in our reference collection, if they are zeroed, need to be zeroed at 100 yards. Because I don't need to worry about zeroing for this 25 yard or 50 yard offset. And look, I know about 25, 200 or the 36, 300 Marine Corps zero. I get it. What a lot of people don't understand is like that 25, 200 zero or, the 36, 300 zero. That first zero is not a real zero. The Marine Corps doesn't really do that. That is a rough zero to, quote, get you on paper out to 300 and then have a point blank to hit a man-sized target out to, say, whether it's closer to 300 or beyond 300 for the Marine Corps. But that's a rough, and then you fine-tune. And so a lot of guys are doing the 25 or doing the 50 because you can do very specific point of aim, point of impact at these closer ranges. Like, I'm going to shoot the guy in the left eyeball and, without having to deal with offset. Well, what's happened is I did that with this rifle and then I forgot what I did because I default to 100 yards. And I've also, how do I say this? I can deal with offset on a rifle at shorter ranges. And there's even tricks to do it that's always been around. Like if you're shooting, you should not on like an NRA target, like the full size NRA target, there's a little bullseye, like it's down in like maybe the solar plexus or the top of the stomach. Well, the real place you want to shoot somebody is high chest area. Well, when you're, let's say, using a standard AR with a carry handle and a front sight post and maximum offset, well, when you're dealing with that, you can do things. You can even quickly acquire what you would call a snapshot relative to that person at closer ranges by referencing their shoulders or their neck or their hairline. If you wanted to shoot somebody in the face, maybe you should hold at the hairline. That's the way we were taught many years ago. And that's real easy to do. And what you will find, even at greater distances, even if you don't have good vision or their best vision, like me, because I'm getting older, I can easily make out at 500 yards, I can see a person's head relative to their shoulders at 500 yards. Now, I may not be able to see a little bullseye on their chest, but I can make that. And if I've got a 100-yard zero, I know where to hold, even on irons, to make a shot on that person. And I'm going to go back to that. And then also going back to the offset on these rifles, at least for me and for guns here in the armory. When I pick up a gun, a rifle, with my two-celled amoeba brain, and if I know every rifle is zeroed for 100 yards, either I can check it, boom, 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 yep, seems to be zeroed, still zeroed, zero's good. If it's off, it's fucked up, I gotta fix it. But I'm starting at 100, fine-tuning at 100, it's 100, or it's damn close to 100. I can look at a rifle and go, number one, it's zeroed at 100 yards, and then I can look at the rifle and I can tell by physically looking at the rifle what the offset's going to be. Is it going to be a lot of offset, or is it going to be a little bit of offset? HK or the PTR 91 HKG3 with that drum sight. It's not that much offset. I mean, there's some depending on how your sight's configured, but you can look at a gun and you can see the offset. But if I have to look at a gun and I'm like, I don't know, what zero is this? If I can't assume what the zero is, that's a logistical problem. And what I thought was kind of funny about it when this happened is I'm sitting there on the range and I'm like, God damn it. I've screwed this up. I don't even know what the zero is on this rifle. And I could have, looked it up or figured it out or, called the armory or done something. I could have looked it up, but the reality is it's like the fact that I have to do that is the problem. And I couldn't help but feel that there were generations of older, I don't know, armorers, masters of arms, drill instructors, firearms instructors, the older guys, the people that came before us. And, if you have to deal with 30 dudes and 30 rifles, or an armory full of rifles, or a platoon of rifles, or a team of rifles, you start to realize logistically you need to start doing some stuff in the same way so it can make sense, at least when you're starting out. I mean, if you're like SEAL Team 6 or Delta Force or whatever, but the reality is none of us are like that are listening to this podcast, probably. And you start realizing there's real benefit to some of this. And I couldn't help but notice, it really hit me too. I've trained with, or through the years, I've trained with some pretty high level people, like particularly from Delta Force, what do you want to call them? Delta Force. I'll call them Delta Force. I'm old. We're going to call them Delta Force. And, you go and you train with these guys. And some of this was some years ago, and some of it wasn't that long ago. And one of the things that kind of surprised me, because with the Delta Force guys, you kind of expect, I don't know, like all the latest and greatest commando, whatever. I don't know. Like, I don't know what it is. But you know what? Those dudes, and they can shoot like a house of fire. They're all zeroing their rifles at 100 yards. And at the time, I'm like, Jesus, really? Really? Kind of like, wow, just some old big green stuff here, huh? Like you just stuck in the old ways. And now I'm kind of looking at it with what happened the other day, and I'm thinking, wow, there's some wisdom in that, So my policy is from now on, it doesn't matter if it is iron sights, it doesn't matter if it has a red dot, it doesn't matter if it has a scope, it doesn't matter if it's a 10-inch barreled HK 416 or a 20-inch M16A4. It is going to be zeroed at 100 yards. And if that zero is off, it's because there's an ammo change or it got bumped and we can fine tune it from there, like we're changing lots of ammo or something. Going from good ammo to crap ammo. That happened like we're shooting wolf ammo. That ammo can be fairly inconsistent. At least it used to be, but there's certainly some American companies too that we've had ammo that, have had the same problem. So, but, it eliminates the factors like, is this the ammo? Is it the sight off? If I have the wrong zero? It's like, you're sitting there just like a moron going, why am I doing this to myself? So it's not advice I'm giving you. I'm not advice giving it to anyone in this podcast. As a matter of fact, I won't name them, but I know some of the SWAT guys, they do some of these, shorter zeros. But you have to realize too, like we're managing a fairly large reference collection over here. We're managing a lot of guns. I shoot basically one handgun. And that's really my strength as a handgun shooter. I shoot the Wilson Combat EDC X9L. I carry it every day. I shoot it every day, most every day. And I dry fire it when I'm not shooting it. Well, TAC rifles, that can change a little bit. And I need to start standardizing some stuff so I don't get lost. And so that's what we're doing. If you're at home, you're an enthusiast and you've got your gun, you've got this is your number one gun. Most people have like a number one gun. Like my Wilson is my number one handgun. If you got a number one gun and that's the one gun you shoot, dude, you do whatever zero you need to do because that works for you. It would work for me. But my problem is if I put a gun up for 6 months and I pull it down, it's like, I don't know, like I have to start realizing I need this. It's something administering a lot of guns. It's a change we need to make. And it was real. It was, it was a real kind of humiliating experience. No one was there to really witness it, but I knew it was happening. And when I realized what was happening, and then I realized how I got to how it was happening, I was like, oh my God, this is terrible. What have I done? Like, I know better. And so just because I know better for me doesn't mean I'm qualified to tell you to do anything. It's just a story to put a cap on 2022. Nobody's perfect. And, if there's something that you weren't perfect on, or a mistake you made, or something you need to improve on, make 2023 a year to grow and maybe get better at it. Just a little more industry news, and we'll go ahead and toss it for this will be the last podcast probably of 2022. A couple of things I thought were interesting. A couple of years ago, a gun was shown at SHOT Show by Dan Wesson called the DWX. And this is it's a really interesting gun. If you're a 1911 guy or you're a CZ75 guy, it's a combination. If you were to take a CZ75, kinda, and mash it up with a 1911. So it's got the beaver tail, it's got a better thumb safety, I think it's got the slide stop. As a matter of fact, I think it's got the sliding trigger, the trigger bow, and even some of the parts on the DWX, I believe, interchange with standard 1911s. I think the DWX might even have a 1911 style mainspring housing on it, which is, crazy when you think about that. Well, Dan Wesson showed this gun at SHOT Show in 2019, and then it disappeared. Well, for some reason, this thing has popped up. And, that's really interesting. That is a gun, I think some of the hotness of it has cooled off a little bit, but I think once people realize what it is, I think it'll pick up. I would like to get one to see what it's like, just like the Beretta 92X that we have is really to me, their version of a 1911. I think if I were to describe the Dan Wesson DWX gun, it doesn't really apply, but it kind of does. I would say it's like their version of the EDC X9L. They're taking their operating system and they're turning it into the 1911 ergonomics. And, Wilson took operating systems of modern striker guns and modern guns, and then turned it into a 1911. And so I believe this Dan Wesson DWX uses a very nice modern CZ75 style magazine. It uses 1911 style mag releases, thumb safeties, sliding trigger. So it's an interesting gun. We'd like to try it. I mean, am I going to carry it? I mean, not really. I've got my gun. With that being said, it looks like Glock is coming out with a gun. There's a gun that Glock had won for another government contract for Customs and Border Patrol, and it was called the Glock 47 or the G47. And if I understand correctly, if this was a Glock 19 style, is this right? Yeah. The Glock 19 style frame with is this right? Yeah. So it's a Glock 19 frame, but then what they've done, I believe, if I understand, they've changed the upper so it can accept a Glock 17 size slide, because they had to change the recoil system a little bit. The Glock 19 and the Glock 17, the full size Glock, they're not interchangeable because there are some dimensional differences as far as how it works. I have to get them in front of me to look at it, but apparently Customs and Border Patrol, they wanted a 19 with a 17 with a or it's basically a 19, but somehow for some reason the recoil system is a little bit different, so this thing will accept Glock 17 slides, which I guess for nerds that like Glocks is they can now create, in theory, they can put a 17 slide on a 19 frame and turn it into something they call a 19L. And, it's like, okay, I don't like the Glock 19. It's too small for my hands. And so I wouldn't get the G47. I mean, if you're a Glock guy and you got to have every one of them, I mean, I'm the 1911 guy. I mean, I would want to have a 40 caliber 1911. Most people wouldn't. I'd like to have one. So if you're a Glock guy and you'd like to have the G47, if you were to ask my opinion, what are the best Glocks to have if you're getting into the Glock game, and you're looking at the press and you're like, huh, which one to get? To me, the Glock 17 is still the standard. I do not do a 19 because it doesn't fit my hand. My hand is too large for the frame unless you put like a magwell on it. But the solution to that, the real holy grail for Glock, was they did what's called the Glock G45, which is a 17 full-size frame, so you can take full-size magazines with a Glock 19 size slide, so the shorter slide. That's the holy grail gun. If you're not a Glock 19 guy and you want more capacity and you want a bigger frame, but you also maybe want something that might present a little bit quicker or clear your holster quicker, the G45 is, in my opinion, where it's at. Now, the last thing is, I saw this, I don't know where I heard this, someone mentioned it around here, but SHOT Show 2023, which is going to be coming up here in just a few weeks, it turns out, I guess, Sig Sauer is not going to be showing up at SHOT Show 2023. They are going to apparently do range day, but they're not going to be doing their giant booth. And I don't know if it's because they've got more than what they can handle, or if it's maybe the future with online sales. And, you can do, I would call it DTC, direct-to-consumer marketing on the internet. They can ship a couple guns to a couple influencers, 5 or 6, 8 people, and they can reach 8-9 million people very quickly. The 50,000, if 38,000 people show up at the SHOT Show, that's nothing compared to what, Hickok 45 can do on his YouTube channel, right? And so it's not big news, like a big shock, but I, as a business person, and I saw that, I'm like, what's going on there? As I said, they are doing SIG is going to do the range day, which is a media day for people to show up and shoot on the range. It's not open to the general public. SHOT Show is not supposed to be open to the general public at all, but they're going to do range day, so media and people can shoot their guns and and get a feel for them and shoot video and do all that. But as far as setting up a giant booth and doing all that, they're not going, and they're saving a ton of money. And, they saved a ton of money by switching to Geico and not going to SHOT Show. So, last thing is, I will say this for our social media and for what we're doing, I'm going to still be shooting the SIG 551, but since we're going to be doing more shooting in the dark, because it's dark earlier, we are going to be breaking out the integrally suppressed upper. We won't post pictures of it. I got to put a red dot on it, and I got to zero it. Got to put a red dot on it, and and a light and do all that. But we have the Gemtech Integra, and it's an integrally suppressed gun. It's one of the uppers that was submitted to the Army for the Surge program, so suppressed upper receiver group, and SIG won that contract and then turned around and won, I guess you'd call the M5. So I don't even know if the Surge program's even going to continue. But we got this Gemtech upper 5.56. So it's a one stamp gun, 16-inch upper, but it's like a 10-inch barrel and then a 6-inch suppressor can threaded into it. It's only one stamp for the suppressor. It's a cool gun. We didn't quite really have it wasn't quite functioning the last time we ran it. Was it 2 years ago? It wasn't really functioning the way we wanted. It had some occasional blips, and we're going to have to address that. I'm probably going to have to build a dedicated lower and change the buffer. But if you're into that kind of stuff, suppressed guns, integrally suppressed guns, I think I got to say it because I'm shooting the 5.51, the SIG gun. AR gun's a better gun. The AR-15's a better gun. It's just a better gun than the 5.5. The 5.51 gun is cool and it's interesting, and it's a way to practice different skills like rocking mags and all that kind of stuff, like from AKs. But if I had to pick up a gun that had to get the job done, I've got a 14.5-inch pinned BCM gun that just is the bee's knees. That's the one that's, it's even got key mod on it. It doesn't have the cool stuff, but it's lightweight and it's accurate and it handles well and it shoots well. It's a better gun, light years better than the SIG gun. So we're going to break out the the Gemtech That's another project. The Gemtech integrally suppressed upper, the Integra, and you'll be seeing more of that through the winter because we're going to be doing a lot more night shooting. And I promised the sheriff that we would only do suppressed shooting at night, even though no one can really quite hear us. I told the guy, he made me promise, so that's kind of what we're doing. So, well, that wraps up episode 283 of the John1911 Podcast. If you want to see any more stories or pictures or links of anything we discuss, please go to our website at john1911.com. That's JOHN1911.com. Remember, it's all about shooting guns and having fun. Everybody have a Merry Christmas. Talk to you next year.